so I'm going to be talking to you folks about what we're trying to do in terms of the restoration of He'eia fish pond, but more importantly, the restoration of traditional aquaculture. So just as we have a term called mahi'ai, yeah, I think a lot of us are familiar with that term. Mahi'ai refers to our traditional agriculturalists, so farmers. We also have the term mahi'a, fish farmers. How do I advance this? Arrows? So, yes, my name is ilei Kawelo is my organization. So this is He'eia fish pond. I just wanted to give you a little bit of context. This is an 88-acre traditional Hawaiian fish pond. It's dated to be about 800 years old. The oldest form of traditional aquaculture found in Hawaii was something you might see typical, represented by Kauai Nui. Kauai Nui was a large fish pond in Kailua. That fish pond is dated to be about 1,200 years old. This is otherwise known as He'eia fish pond, Pihi Lokoi'a, as well as Hale o Meheanu, house belonging to Meheanu. I've been working to restore this fish pond, like I said, basically right towards the tail end of my career at Manoa. This was just sort of what I did on the weekend. Met down there with a bunch of friends, chopped down some trees, drink some beer, and it grew into my life's work. I come from a family of fishers. In particular, my ohana are he'e fisher people. We catch octopus, and I do that as well. Though I found that through my work here at He'eia Fish Pond, that I was born a fisher person, but I'm evolving into becoming a mahi'a, or a fish pond practitioner, someone that is able to cultivate fish. And that in itself is a direct reflection of climate change and our ability to adapt to a changing ecosystem. So the typical lokoi'a kuapa, our fish pond has 6 makaha, and these are sluice gates. The fish pond functions tidally. So we have 4 tidal changes that occur on a daily basis, 2 highs, 2 lows, circulating the fish pond, as well as recruiting fish and stocking the fish pond naturally through the spacing allowed by the makaha. It's also the mechanism traditionally by which our ancestors harvested fish from the fish pond. If we use the makaha as a biological indicator, a success indicator, to date, we have not been able to harvest fish from the makaha, but if all goes well and we're successful and the ahupua'a is healthy and functioning, hopefully in the next few years, we'll be able to see our first harvest via the makaha. So, fish ponds, traditional aquaculture as opposed to contemporary aquaculture. There is a big difference, and there is a big difference in the way that we eat and consume fish today, right? Raise your hand, who likes poke? Okay, put your hands down. How many of you have eaten mullet? So not that many. Okay, so that is a direct reflection of the current palate, right? We all eat predators, we all like poke. Poke comes from deep sea, offshore fishing, pelagic fish. They're all carnivorous. Traditionally, our ancestors ate herbivores. Yes, we ate carnivores, but not on a daily basis. The reason for that is because herbivorous fish are way more energy efficient, meaning you're able to grow herbivore with a lot less energy input than you would, than what is required of a carnivorous fish, right? Makes sense. That's why we all should be eating more vegetables, right? I should listen to myself a little bit better. I'm the biggest hypocrite of them all. But I do like fish, and I grew up eating mullet. Anyway, so this is your typical fish pond. This is why fish ponds were constructed. Okay, fish ponds were constructed in areas with high productivity, meaning estuaries. So we know Our stream, our mountain water follows the stream, reaches the ocean, reaches the shoreline, and it mixes with ocean waters. Those areas are high in productivity, meaning they're nutrient rich and they're home to many of our primary producers, things such as this. This is a new term that I learned maybe 3 years ago, but I really like it because it makes me sound smart. Microphytobenthos. Yeah. It looks not so appetizing, but what it is are these packets and pouches, if you will, of diatoms. Diatoms are what things like mullet, otherwise known as anai, pua'ama, pua'ama from its juvenile stage, ama'ama as an immature adult, and then a mature adult, anai. And then we have stories about our anai holo, or those mullet that circumnavigate the island of Oahu. So fish ponds were built to cultivate herbivorous fish such as mullet that eat diatoms. And this is ele. This is entomorpha. It's a filamentous green algae. And to cultivate fish such as ava. So its juvenile stage is called puava, and then ava and then kalamoho are those large mature adults that attain about 30 plus pounds in size. And I refer to them as the gentle giants because all they do is eat limu. All they do is eat algae. Okay, so this is why fish ponds were constructed in areas that they were, to maximize on a very productive ecosystem and to, and to further that and be able to feed our community. Okay, so the typical, I think many of you have come to the fish pond and experienced firsthand the restoration work we do. If not, I invite you all to come out, get down and dirty in the mud with us. But first and foremost, restoration starts with mangrove removal. Mangrove here in Hawaii was introduced in the early 1900s, first to Molokai in 1900 and 1920 to the island of Oahu. It is your perfect example of a weed here in Hawaii. I totally appreciate and respect the areas that mangrove is native to because I've seen mangrove forests in Palau and they're beautiful. Can't say the same about mangrove here in Hawaii. But it's destructive here. There's nothing that naturally has evolved with mangrove to keep it in check. So it, again, is your perfect example of an invasive species. That's our fish pond wall beneath all of the mangrove. So first we remove the invasive mangrove, and you can see off in the distance the continued restoration or the removal of mangrove. And then we get to the wall itself, which has been sort of not maintained for the last 50 years. So restoration is a relatively new term and has only become a word in my Ohana's vocabulary since about 1965 when this fish pond sort of started to get dominated by invasive species. So this is your typical fish pond restoration work. We remove the mangrove, dismantle the wall, bring in additional material needed to build up the wall, bring in fill material to restore the fish pond to its original height. So this is our restoration to date, and I'm very appreciative for those people that can fly drones and not charge us for it. This is a aerial shot that was taken maybe 2 months ago by my cousin, showing our restoration and progress to date. So our fish pond wall is 7,000 linear feet. It's 1.3 miles in a full circle, the largest fish pond wall in Hawaii. And we've successfully restored half of that. That's 3,500 linear feet of wall to this corner, and have just begun the restoration work upstream. Okay, now to transition into the climate change part of the conversation. This very simple oli or chant or digi or whatever you want to call it was composed by our staff, and I'll do it for you just because I feel like it. Okay. Ku mai le houla I kai a lau pua mai o ai a kula laua o hina puku I a. Ku a lana kila nā mahi a mauli au honua. Okay, so you do it 3 times and then you clap at the end. But the reason why I mentioned this is because we composed this for a recent trip that we made about a year ago to the island of Maui, to a place in Hana called Lehoula. And if you know the story about Kulakai, Hina Pukuia, and Ai, so Hina Pukuia and Kulakai are the patrons of fishing, the deities, our gods. Their son is Ai. And you can read the story. It's a really good story. But what the story talks about is climate change. It attributes the first fish pond ever constructed to one that was built at Lehoula. And we got to visit that particular lokoia, that particular fish pond, and it's very tiny. But fish ponds were constructed as a direct response and adaptation to a changing climate. This could have been about 1,500 years ago. It could have been a little bit more recent. So I think that the restoration of traditional aquaculture and the restoration of our fish ponds in Hawaii is very important. And you're giving me you never gave the other guys a minute sign? Oh, goodness. Okay, so the predictions. The predictions say that sea level is going to rise, right? So then this is kind of like a joke, but not really. We'll just build our wall higher. Predictions say that the pH is going to become more acidic in the ocean, and that is of concern for us because our cement that holds our wall together consists of coral and algae, barnacles, oysters, and things like that. And if we have an increase in ocean acidification, those kinds of critters are going to be affected because of their calcareous exoskeleton. Okay, very important to the function of fish ponds is the connectivity between Mauka and Makai, the maintenance of that freshwater input to our ocean waters. And this is something that is exemplified through the connection between Kane and Kanaloa through this Vaihapakai or Vale Vale, or areas of very high productivity. Okay, these are our typical Tradewind showers, Mololani and Halaulani. We're starting to see a change in that. A decrease in those normal occurrences of our regular Tradewind showers and increase in pulse events and flooding. It's concerning for us because phytoplankton and zooplankton are the building blocks and the foundation for productivity in the ocean as we know it. And if we have an increase in ocean acidification and an increase in flooding and decrease in normal trade wind and stream flow, then we're concerned that our waters might not be as productive as they were historically. This is the water temperature of the fish pond. I'm not going to talk about it much. But this was an event that occurred, Rosie, what year? 2008, 9, which shows, and it corresponds with an El Nino event, which our water temperatures in the pond rose, and we had a big fish kill. So we can expect to see more of that. Fish kill. Okay, so what are we doing to combat that? We're trying to educate our people and ourselves to become more observant. So we've implemented things like this lunar chart to record our observations that we see. We teach our kids to be observant, which is actually a really hard thing to do. They're super disconnected. They're always on their cell phones, and it's super annoying. But we try and force them to see things as we think they should see things. Uh-oh. And that was my minute. No. And then unusual occurrences that we observe. This is O'opuhue. It's a puffer. And this happened maybe 5 years ago now. We started to see mass die-offs of just this one particular species. Okay, other things we see attributed to possible changing climate is these birds are from North America. They come and visit us every year. It's crazy. That's a cackling goose, that's a Brandt's goose, that's an osprey, and that's a bufflehead duck. And they all come to the fish pond. The cackling goose was here for the past 6 months. It just left, probably, hopefully back to where it came from. During the summer, this past summer in May, we had a crazy, a stellar year for recruitment of ohua. Ohua are juvenile or post-larval recruits of surgeon fish, so things like manini, pualu, palani, maiko. So we had a stellar year for that. We also had a crazy year for papio recruitment. So I think this summer is going to be really good for fishing, guys. But there's all these strange weather patterns and things that are happening, and we wouldn't be able to pay attention to any of this if we weren't there on a daily basis. So it's not just us. We're happy to say that we have about 30 fish ponds represented through our Hui Malama Lokoi'a, and mahalo to Kua back there for convening us. This is Lehoula. This is that place I was referring to, the site of the first fish pond that was constructed. And these are all our hoas, our fish pond hoas throughout Hawaii. And these are all of the communities and lokoi'a represented by our Hui Malama Lokoi'a. Okay, 2 more slides. So we are living representations of climate change resiliency. I mean, it's hard to grasp this concept of climate change. It's very depressing. We've sort of been thrusted, catapulted into the conversation of climate change. We understand that the climate is changing. It's always changing. And we feel that we're best off to adapt to the changing climate as Hawaiians, because we're on the aina on a daily basis. So I guess that's just my hope and wish, is that more of us and our kids can be reconnected with our aina, because that's the only way that we'll be able to adapt and become resilient. And then if you need to contact me, here we go. Thank you.